Hello everybody, good morning, good morning. Welcome to our Nourish You live stream this lovely, beautiful, sunny Friday morning. How are you doing today? My name's Claudia. I'm a nutritional therapist and eating psychology coach with 18 years clinical experience. It's a delight and pleasure to always be here every Friday, although I'm actually not here next Friday, but most Fridays at 11 a.m. So before we get into today's subject, I'd love to have a quick chat with you. So yesterday I attended the Smart Kids conference, which was online, and it was from basically 8:45, 9 a.m. in the morning till 5:30, with every half hour was a different speaker. So it was absolutely intense, and some of it was extremely interesting. Now, one of the initial speakers was someone called Professor Michael Crawford, who's in his 90s, and he was just so inspiring. Anyway, he's written this book called The Shrinking Brain, and because we'd recently covered off so much around nutrition for cognition and brain health, I just wanted to draw attention to his incredible book. And in it, he's one of the things that they said back in 1972, Graham wrote in the Sunday Times, unless action is taken to care for the nutrition of the brain, we will become a race of morons. Has that happened? I'm wondering. I'm looking around, I'm reading the news, so I'm thinking, are we a race of morons? Sometimes it seems like it, doesn't it? But actually, the brain has been shrinking over time as well. And it used to be that Homo sapiens, humans, had a brain capacity of over 1600 cc. And now apparently it's only 1366 cc as a general average. So what's happening is our brain tissue is actually physically shrinking, and our cerebral spinal fluid is obviously then circulating and using up that space. So yeah, worth going back and listening to the Nutrition for Cognition series. And then one of my takeaways personally was I was looking at the dosage of the omega-3s that I take, because I take omega-3s every day. I eat oily fish, not every day, but at least once or twice a week. I have my smoked mackerel, or pilchards, anchovies, sardines, mackerel, salmon, tuna. Try to have it very limited. So I try to eat it in my diet, and I have it as a supplement. And I've just been taking one a day, which I learned from yesterday is really good for protecting cardiovascular. But when you want it to get to the brain, you need to take the full dose. Because I normally, I try not to see supplements as a life sentence. I'm always doing food as the foundation, supplements as supplemental. And there we go. That's what's happening. So just having a quick look. Excellent. I'm having a blood test. If I ask for homocysteine, what level is optimum and what does the test signify? Great question. So homocysteine is a really, really good marker for cardiovascular health and for brain health. It depends on the laboratory that do it. You can ask your NHS GP for it. It is something that the NHS do test for. I think it depends on the laboratory, because I spent so many years in Gibraltar and working in the Spanish system, the markers might be different, but I think it was over 14. Anything over 14, you do not want elevated homocysteine. And if you've got elevated homocysteine, it's usually an indicator that your B6, folic acid, B12 levels can be low. So from there, you do a bit more investigation, and you take something called, for example, a really good one is Thorne Research. So that's THORNE, Thorne Research. And you do take their Methyl Guard product, for example. Oh, thank you. I did wash my hair this morning. Oh, wow. Sarah Jane, you're off to Crete. Oh, I went to Crete last September. It's just the most beautiful place. And you're going to enjoy such Mediterranean food and diet. Oh, my gosh, it's wonderful. Oh, gosh, from the breakfasts to Yeah. Oh my God. And all those tomatoes and vegetables, they just taste different with the beautiful olive oil. I brought back a tub of olive oil. I hope maybe you'll find some too. And then something that I saw at the airport that I wish I'd bought that maybe you might enjoy too, seeds from Greece to buy to make your own, grow your own tomatoes and all your herbs. Bring back some oregano as well. It's really lovely to add to your cooking when you get back home, like a taste of Greece afterwards. So today we are talking about a voyage through our digestive system, and it's, as you know, one of my most favorite topics of all. And we'll take it part by part, and we'll cover off different conditions, different symptoms as we go through. So you get the full picture. But where I always begin with digestion, asking this question, and I'm sorry I can't see you on Zoom, but I can imagine you pointing. Where does digestion begin? Where does digestion begin? Is it, most people say, oh, it's the mouth, but actually digestion begins with our eyes and our nose. When we start, and our thoughts, when we start thinking about food, oh my gosh, the saliva, just thinking of all that delicious Cretan Greek food, my saliva, I could feel the saliva building in my mouth. This is known as the cephalic phase digestive response. This is where our body is thinking about food, and we're preparing our body for food to arrive. So the saliva starts flowing, but also so too to the gastric juices in the stomach. And this is why chefs, as a profession, are in general more likely to suffer with stomach ulcers than other professions, because they're looking at food all day. So they're stimulating their digestive juices, getting that hydrochloric acid going. And of course, that can ultimately lead to stomach ulcers. So this is why I'm not a huge fan of chewing gum, because again, chewing gum, you're telling your body that you're swallowing, that food is imminent, so the stomach acid is building. All the rest of it, but it's sort of a little bit of trickery, isn't it? Although, with that said, chewing gum, if someone is actually suffering with heartburn and reflux, it can be quite helpful to get the swallowing mechanism in. And also Navy SEALs have done quite a lot of research around energy and brain stimulation, that when you are chewing gum, you're actually increasing microcirculation to the brain, and it can help you with concentration just for very short time. So what my final word on chewing gum is, if you're going to chew it for 15 minutes, get all the benefits, and then spit it out and leave it. Okay. Right. We'll come on to the bowels. We'll come on to the bowels in another session. But today we're just going to start with the eyes and the nose and the mouth. So when we look at food, we eyeball, and whether we're doing it consciously or subconsciously, we decide in advance if we're going to feel full or hungry. Still be hungry. Is that going to satisfy us? Is it going to be enough? And this is where actually how we present our food to ourselves is really, really important. Even I know sometimes a lot, when you're cooking on your own or just for yourself, you might think, oh, I can't be bothered, I'll just throw something together quickly. And this is where, when we're eating little bits and we can't quite register how much we've eaten, we're far more likely to eat more. So one of the pioneers of all of this research is someone called Brian Wansink. And he works with Cornell University with their food lab, and he does all sorts of incredible experiments where, for example, he set up a dining table and in a restaurant scenario, and people would come in and they'd have soup. So he'd set up 4 bowls of soup, but 2 bowls had invisible pipes going up into the bowls that were constantly refilling the soup. People didn't realize they were chatting. And of course, you end up eating more when you can't quite realize how much food you've eaten. You haven't seen it all in one go to eyeball it. It's kind of like where, for example, barbecues. If you're at a barbecue situation, which we might be in a few months' time, if you're having chicken legs and things like that, it's always helpful to keep the chicken legs on the plate, because then you will subconsciously register how much you've eaten and you will feel full sooner. It's the same with drinking wine. If you've got your friends round for dinner and they're guzzling down all your bottles stash of wine, leave the empties on the table and people will soon slow down the rate at which they're drinking, because there'll be it's subconscious cues. So this is one of the reasons that I absolutely love presenting food in bowls. I love bowl food rather than big plates. If you put the same food in a bowl versus on a big plate, it will psychologically look much bigger in the bowl compared to a big plate. If you don't believe me, try it out for yourself. It's why restaurants always serve food on big plates. And this is why we want to go back to our grandmother's crockery and plates. And maybe you can find them in charity shops, that kind of thing. Smaller plates are absolutely brilliant. And then in terms of things like juices or drinks that you would want to be limiting, tumblers are the worst. So those big glasses that are round, bit wide round glasses, tumblers, that can look quite small because in terms of height, but they can absorb an incredible amount of liquid and still look quite stingy. Whereas a tall, thin glass, if you were to put the same amount of juice or whatever into the tall, thin glass, is going to look a lot more, and you're going to savor and enjoy it. And you're going to think, gosh, I actually had a really good sized glass of whatever that was. Not that I'm a big fan of orange juice myself. I find personally it can make my skin go a bit red. It's quite acidic, so be careful with said orange juice. But if you are going to have something like that, always try and serve it in a tall, thin glass. So observing and noticing how much we're eating is really important. Then we put hopefully we've taken a breath, actually, before we even put the food in our mouth. Let's take a breath and make sure that we're in a relaxed state. Because when we're in a relaxed state, we are far more likely to digest our food more efficiently, more effectively. When we're under stress, our blood is diverted away from our digestive organs, and we're in this fight or flight mode. And actually, we can have 40% less blood flow to our digestive system. So that's when the food can sit heavily, sit like it's sunk in your stomach and it's not going anywhere. We haven't optimized our eating experience. We want to make sure that we're relaxed. We also, if we're eating under stress, will dramatically reduce our digestive enzyme output. By something, I remember Mark David, who I studied with at the Institute for the Psychology of Eating, he said it's 20,000 time reduction. 20,000 time reduction in digestive enzymes when we eat when we're under stress. So we want to make sure we're relaxed. If you've just had a busy meeting, a busy morning, and you're all fired up, go for a little walk around the block before you sit down, or say a mental grace. Take a few breaths, being mindful, present, conscious when we're eating, not all this sort of subconscious eating. And then you just don't realize how much you've eaten when we're not consciously eating. I can't tell you how many clients I've had over the years who've said, I'm watching EastEnders and I look down and suddenly that packet of biscuits is gone. And this is where it's okay. If you're going to have biscuits, fine, have biscuits, but put them on a plate. Put them on a plate before you start eating them. And slow down. Everything we want to do, we want to be in rest and digest. We want to have taken a few deep breaths and make sure we're in a relaxed state. And then we want to chew our food slowly. And I'm not saying, have 25 chews of your mouth. I really do like Paul McKenna, but I bought this CD of his once, which was I would never inflict on anyone else, but it was like put pick your fork up, put your food in your mouth, chew your food. I was thinking, oh my gosh, this has taken away all the pleasure of eating. I think the golden rule here to make sure you slow down and enjoy your food is put your fork down between every single mouthful. If you can, just put your fork down. That will slow you down. And then also try to match the person. If you're eating at a big table full of people, try to stay with the slowest eating person at the table. Like almost not making a competition, but a sort of a little challenge yourself. Or if you've got your grandchildren wolfing down their food, why don't you say to them, come on, let's have a little competition, who can eat the slowest today? And what you'll find when you eat slower, you feel full sooner. And actually, you're really, really giving your food the best possible chance to be digested because of that mechanical breakdown of the teeth, the teeth mechanically breaking down the food. So it's going to be better chewed. So if we were to all go to a restaurant, I don't know, have a curry of some sort, if those of you eating fast will literally have chunks of food in your stomach. Those of you eating slowly will have like a nice mush. Technically, it's known as chyme, but a nice mushy food in the stomach is what we're after. We don't want chunks because then your digestive system is going to have to work so much harder to break it down. So we want to set ourselves up right for optimum digestion. Now, one of the first questions I ask clients who come to me with IBS is, how are you at the weekends? How are you when you go on holiday? What's going on with the IBS? And it's amazing how many people say, oh my gosh, the bloating, the constipation, the diarrhea, the discomfort, the embarrassment, everything is so much better when I'm at home or when I'm on holiday. And it's often because of the stress, and it's trying to educate people around awareness of how you're eating and how you're consuming food can really, really make a huge difference to how you're digesting it. So sorry, I feel like I've spoken a lot about that. Okay, excellent. Well done, those of you saying eyes for where digestion begins. So first of all, we need to make sure we're chewing our food properly. If you have any dental issues, sore mouth, sore teeth, make sure that you're properly mashing your food before. I had one lady who came to me, she was mid-30s. She'd started with bloating. Her doctor had referred her to me, and she started getting digestive symptoms. It was beginning to look like IBS, and they'd started about 3 months ago. And then, of course, so asked lots of questions at the beginning. I'm meeting her for the first time, and I noticed that she's wearing train tracks on her mouth. I said, oh gosh, tell me about that. Oh yes, they were put on about 5 months ago, but it's very painful. And of course, she had stopped chewing her food so well. And then the chunks in her stomach rather than the mush, it had just taxed her digestive system. So all we did at the beginning was soften her food, have fish instead of steak, have, mashed potato, mashed lentils, lots of dal, just slow cook your food so it's more digestible. It's easier to eat and to break down if there is meat or chicken or lamb or whatever she wanted to eat, to have it as a slow cooked meal rather than some pan fried thing that is going to be much harder to chew and digest. So it can be really as simple as that to help with digestive issues. So that's that. Right, that's the mouth. I'm just thinking, and I mean, we could do a whole nother session on the mouth, couldn't we, about the oral biome and just making sure that your bacterial balance is good in the mouth. And this is where I think it was Ali who recommended to me the Gutology toothpaste, which is with the probiotic toothpaste. Really, really good. You can get probiotic mouthwashes, just brilliant to make sure that your mouth is very healthy. And actually wearing mouth tape or sleep tape at night can be very helpful for your gut microbiome and for helping prevent dryness in the mouth, because it really encourages the nasal breathing, which is so good for the nitric oxide. And of course, nitric oxide conversion happens a lot in the mouth, and the oral microbiome is very important for that. So if you've got any conditions that you'd like me to talk about around the mouth, just pop them in the chat. One of the classics I often get asked is about cracks here on the mouth. They're often fungal. They can be low iron, low B vitamins, but sometimes just a bit of coconut oil is all you need, because they're fungal and we don't realize. Oral thrush. Gosh, I've got to this afternoon I am doing the Eventbrite page for our 10-day reset that I would absolutely love you to join me, which is going to be on the 12th of May. So I'm going to get that ready, but I'm also preparing a lecture for the Nutritional Healing Foundation on candida and yeast and fungal overgrowth. So I've got to crack on with that as well today. Yes, busy day, busy Friday, which is lovely. So that's the mouth. I feel like I'm just going to have a quick sip. Let's talk now about it. So you've chewed your food and then you swallow it. Hopefully that's all fine, and it travels down the esophagus into the stomach. Now the stomach is actually a very, very strong muscle. So in your mouth, sorry, just going back to your mouth a moment, when you're increasing your saliva, you're also increasing an enzyme called amylase, which breaks down the carbohydrate. So carbohydrate breakdown begins in the mouth. Then it travels down to the stomach. And in the stomach, you have a lot of the proteases. You have the digestive enzymes that are going to break down the protein. And also remember, the stomach is actually an incredibly strong muscle, which is also going to mechanically break down the food. So it's going to be pressure on that. And you've got the hydrochloric acid, the HCl, the stomach acid. Stomach acid is really important for lots of reasons, not only to break down the food, but also to kill off viruses and bacteria. We swallow an enormous amount of bacteria. This is one of our major entry points into the body for all the germs and bugs and things. So we want to make sure that we've got plenty of stomach acid to address that and to fend off and kill off a lot of the bacteria. So stomach acid is really important. And I know when people develop reflux, they often think, oh, it's too much acid. It's not always an acid problem. You can have reflux and actually have low stomach acid. What happens is the valve, so this is the valve at the top of the stomach here, and this is known as the LES, the lower esophageal sphincter. And sometimes this can become lazy and loose, and that's when the food then can travel back up the esophagus, and the acid, because it's being combined with the stomach acid, it can burn and be really, really uncomfortable. Reflux is not comfortable. It's a difficult condition, and this is where actually there is so much we can do to help manage this. First of all, staying upright. Don't eat and then go to bed or lie down. So make sure, if you were going to have lunch and then you were having a little siesta, make sure you're sort of still sitting up on a chair. Make sure with dinner that you have your dinner at least 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. And then when you're in bed, you can put bricks under the top of the bed, or just extra pillows if that's okay for your neck. If not, put bricks under your bed. So your bed is at an angle, you're slightly elevated. Just using gravity to try and keep it all down. The problem is with using a lot of these antacids is that they help with the reflux, they coat the stomach lining, and that stomach lining is needed for something called intrinsic factor that helps B12 become assimilated into the body, and it happens through the stomach lining. And so when we coat the stomach with the omeprazole, the Gaviscon, the Rennies, whatever it is, then that inhibits B12 being absorbed. B12 is very, very important for our nerves, for energy, for so many functions in the body. And there is a correlation with people taking omeprazole, which I think is the second most prescribed drug in the world. So first or second, and then becoming B12 deficient. And then people think they're developing mild cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's, all sorts of things. And actually, it ends up being B12 deficiency. So if you are taking any of these PPIs, I mean, any of these omeprazoles, please make sure that you get your B12 levels checked every so often. B12 can stay in the body actually for about 2 years. So it might not happen immediately. Every 6 months, ask your GP for another B12 test, just to make sure. But there's a lot that we can do naturally to help with the esophagus and to help with the reflux in general. But the problem is when the reflux develops inflammation, that can be problematic. So Manuka honey. Manuka honey is absolutely amazing. It's my top go-to for reflux. If you feel like you're getting reflux, or you know you get it in the evenings, have a preventative teaspoon of Manuka honey, or have it when symptoms develop. Very, very helpful. It just calms the inflammation of the esophagus, and it just really seems to help. If you found it helpful for yourself, please say in the chat so other people can see I'm not just making this up. Another thing that's very helpful is something called GastriSoothe. GastriSoothe is like little sachets of aloe vera and bicarb, and they'll be help. They can help. But there's certain foods that are going to trigger reflux. We know cherry tomatoes, or too many tomatoes in general, anything too acidic, like citrus, for example. Even though citrus becomes very alkaline at this point here, it's still got very high citric acid levels. They haven't been broken down yet. Some of chocolate, green tea, alcohol, of course, caffeine, these can all be triggers. Everyone's a little bit different, so you will work to identify your own triggers. But there's so much that we can do to help with the reflux. My husband's folic acid is off the scale low. We already eat 2 bags of spinach a week plus broccoli. He has been put on tablets, but is there anything else we can add to his diet, please? Okay, so folic acid is found generally in the dark green leafy veg. You're doing absolutely the right thing eating it. There is a gene mutation. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called I've now forgotten it. Some people find it hard to assimilate folic acid, and this is where, when you supplement folic acid, just to be safe, without having to do all the genetic testing, is just as a precaution, I recommend to everyone who takes folic acid to take methylated folic acid. So it's called methylfolate. And that is the best form of folic acid for people who have trouble assimilating folic acid. It is a real thing. It is a genetic mutation. It's gone from my brain, the name of this genetic mutation. Anyway, the FR methyl gene, and it's quite widespread in countries like Ireland, interestingly. And it is something that, especially for women who have a history of miscarriages, for example, folic acid is obviously really, really important. So just, if I was you, I'd get him onto the methylated form. So methylfolate, it will be in Holland and Barrett. It will be on iherb.com. It's really widely available, but I would definitely go for that form, so that he's got more chance of assimilating. With the spinach, that's quite a lot of oxalate. I would focus more on the broccoli. Don't worry about having 2 whole bags of spinach a week. I would go maybe 1 bag of spinach, but then have rocket, then have watercress, then have all the others. Like, keep the variety going and get on the methylated form. Yes, Janet, you're not alone. So many people have said this to me as well. Typico kefir water is great for me, and And the bed head on bricks. Brilliant. That's it. It's all about finding your solution, isn't it? That what's going to work for you as an individual is different to the next person. So brilliant. Brilliant. Okay. Apparently pregnant women are advised to take folic acid, but there's epidemic of tongue tie amongst babies due to excess folic acid. Yeah, I mean, Michelle, that's yes. That actually yesterday at this smart kids conference, we were learning a lot about, you know, all the deficiency symptoms, but all the excess symptoms as well. It's really hard to get the balance. Yeah, but because the folic acid is needed for the neural tube development of the brain, it does seem really, really important, doesn't it? I didn't know about the tongue tie, the link with the tongue tie. For pregnancy and preconceptual care, I always just defer to Zeta West. I think the Zeta West supplements are very good. So excellent. Well, I think we've got this far. I think it's going to take us a few goes. I'm not actually here next Friday. But maybe I could record a little bit and just get it posting at 11 o'clock. I'll put it to post. We'll cover a bit more. We'll get a little bit further into the digestive tract, and then I'll be here the following week. So wishing you a wonderful weekend. I hope you top up some vitamin D. It's looking really nice outside. And I hope to see you soon. Please look out for, I'll post it in the link to this chat as well. Please look out for our 10-day detox and a reset program. What it's going to do is we're going to start it on the Saturday, the 10th, just to join, to get the weekend, to get get everyone organized, set up, ready. And then to begin on the Monday, it's going to be £15 for is effectively going to be 2-week program. I hope that's okay. I've tried to make it as affordable as I possibly can. And yes, looking forward to seeing you soon. Okay, everyone, take care. Bye.